welcome to the Straight Red Card, where both hosts rated a 5 on the Ugly Meter Pro. Gentlemen, have you heard about that, by the way, Brett? The
Rated a 5.
The Ugly Meter Pro. Have you heard that? It's a new app.
I have not.
Oh, it's a brand new app.
Is it out of 5?
It's out of 10. Yeah. You know Howard, he's just unusually cruel, but it does tell you if you're ugly or not, or I guess it just gives you a 1 through 10 on the ugly meter. So I've not done it, so I don't know. Howard must have pictures of us and scan them into the new app called the Ugly Meter Pro.
I'm guessing you just take a picture of yourself and send it into that app or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. It takes a picture. You take a picture of yourself, and then they have these scanners, and it scans your face. And well, you've seen the research. The more
I have excellent bone structure, so clearly that five's rough.
Well, I think in both cases, granted I'm heavier than I used to be, but at one point in time I was a pretty good looking kid. But anyhow, besides the point, it all the research says the more equal your facial features are. Research says that the more your facial features are equal, or I don't know how you explain that, like your eyes are actually in line, like you don't have one eye that's way off to the left and one that's in the middle of your face, and that, both sides of your face, if you split them in half, if they look like one another, the more they look like one another, the hotter you are. I don't know.
Basically they're saying that you shouldn't be a sloth.
Right. Or the two sides of your faces taken separately, pictures taken, shouldn't look that different. And if they do, then you're probably
What if your head's tilted?
Well, that's kind of a what happens. What if you're born that way? You mean?
No, I'm just saying in general. What if you just tilt your head in the picture?
I don't know. I'm sure there's some sort of
This is the longest tangent we've ever had before a show started.
Well, speaking of ugly. Speaking of ugly, Aaron Winter. Okay, he's not really ugly. All right. No. I guess the question is, now that the team in Toronto once again lost, and they lost to a good team, right? I mean, RSL's a good team. So they lose again. They all, after the game, half of them collapse onto the field because they're just super bummed. Because once again, they were in the game, they had a shot, they lost. The question starts to come, though, how much longer do the Toronto FC wait before Aaron Winter has to go bye-bye? Or do they just continue through this rough streak and, again, chalk it up to another building season?
Well, I would imagine that they'd at least give him until summertime, so that they at least have an option of a new manager to pick from.
Well, but what if they're already like 0 whatever then? 20.
Well, I'm sure they're going to pick up some wins. They're going to pick up some draws. The question is who's going to fall victim first. Aaron's saying that it's basically going to be it's a work in progress. You just got to give it some time.
Oh God!
And I don't know how much more time TFC can give them. I would say if TFC is continuing to struggle, by summertime, that he's definitely out.
I mean, at some point they've got to play Portland, right? I mean, they've got to play Chivas. Now, at least those two teams have 3-2 wins, and even New England has 2 wins, right? And so does Columbus Crew and Philadelphia. But
again, Toronto will pick up the wins here shortly. They're not going to continue this losing streak. I mean, as you pointed out, they've been in matches. They've been in the games. They've just let them go at the very end. They'll eventually pick up some wins.
That makes it almost more deflating, though.
Oh, it definitely is. I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that they're in the game. They're in the games long enough to where they're looking at this like, you know what, we can come out with the result.
Every time they get it,
eventually will come out with the result. And the problem is how far are they going to be behind in comparison to the rest of the league at that point?
So you don't think this losing streak's going to go on for much longer?
No, they'll pick up some points here shortly.
How
it's not going to continue.
2 or 3 games. How long does it take? I mean, really, it could take a while. Okay, let's look at Toronto's schedule. You've got DC United coming up on the 5th of May. Then you have Philadelphia So
no. Who's Toronto playing there in the middle?
Okay, so they're playing DC United twice in a row. They're playing them on the 5th away, they're at home, and then they're playing them away on 5/19. And then they're playing Philly at home. So that's May for them. There's 3 opportunities. I don't see them beating DC United, not the way they're playing right now. So they got a chance to beat Philly because they're not going to beat DC United. So they're going to have to wait all the way to the end of the month. They play DC twice this month, and then they play Philly. And so, they got a chance at the end of the month to end this streak, but I don't see them beating DC United at home or away.
Anything's possible in MLS. You see teams beating other teams who you never imagined would stand a chance. But if I had to go on paper, I would definitely say DC would take away the points in both games. But again, anything's possible. I doubt that Toronto's going to have this continued losing streak for the next 2 to 3 games. I guarantee you they'll probably get at least 8 points somewhere in that mix.
Well, let's hope for them because it's almost getting depressing to watch.
It's really getting depressing.
I actually feel bad for them. I really do. All right, how many of us are tired of all the rumors that have been going on now? It seems forever about Italian league stars coming to the MLS. You had Del Piero. We've
already talked about it, yeah.
Then you had Ronaldinho. That went on forever. Now we have Alessandro Nesta. And the point is, I guess the question is, well, and New York's already been pretty clear about this, that they're not interested in a defender.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that'll be at the end of that discussion. But I really wonder, I mean, guys like Ronaldinho, really, honestly, Ronaldinho should have come to the MLS. I really think I don't know why he went back to Brazil. Do you?
No, maybe. No, just a comfort level. Maybe, I don't know. Getting back home to his roots, getting back home. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He could have had a great home at LA, and he could have done well in MLS.
Yep.
I am also getting tired of these the rumors that spring up every off season. I mean, I know that's the name of the game. There are going to be rumors. There's talks. Everybody's talking to players. It's going to happen. But I mean, we're at this point we're just throwing down names, and players are just throwing down potential cities, not necessarily knowing the actual rules behind the matter of the fact. I mean, New York definitely has an extra designated spot that they can pick up,
and they're going to use it.
They're going to, and I know they're looking at it. But as you pointed out, Bakke and the New York management have already stated that they're not going to use it, their last designated player spot, on another defensive player.
Well, what about this thing, though? The Michael Ballack versus Stephen Ireland. Stephen Ireland's still really young enough that he could be around and be a contributor for that team for a number of years, while Michael Ballack arguably is coming to the end of his career. But it looks like the discussions with Ballack are off, and the discussions with Stephen Ireland are the real big focus for Solar and the New York Red Bulls. I think he'd be a great addition.
Well, I guess you got to look at it this way. MLS is generally looked down upon transfer fees. They're not about spending the money to bring players over.
Mm-hmm.
They're more than willing to spend the money to bring over players that are out of contract or that won't cost them an extra penny. But the fact that Aston Villa is sitting here saying, we want $10 million for Ireland, it's not going to happen. They talk about the potential use of a loan. I don't see it happening. I really don't. Not at a loan, not at $10 million. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The best that's going to happen is he plays out his contract, or he comes to his final year, and Aston Villa just wants to offload some extra money and get rid of him, which I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. And then the question is, even if you do get him, where do you put him? They've got Limpier on the left, McCarty and Marquez if Marquez is there.
You'd remove Dax in the equation.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Dax gets
it
the
would
axe.
Certainly suck because I like Dax. I like him a lot, and he's a great player to have on the pitch. But yeah, he wouldn't stand a chance.
Dax gets the axe then if Ireland's in. Because
Sorry, Dax.
You're not going to stick him on the wing necessarily, although Ireland
No.
can play out there if he, in this league. I think he'd be fine out there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Dax gets the axe. They're not going to take Lempier out, although I have to say Lempier's looks slow this season. I don't know what he did on the offseason.
He's not quite the Lempier that we know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he
Got complacent, maybe.
Too
Comfortable with his position.
too much cannabis over the offseason. I don't know. It could be a lot of things. But they're going to have to do something. The question is, what do they do while Henry is out? Henry is going to be out for, what, 3 weeks? You're going to play Cooper and Agudelo. This gives Agudelo finally another
Is he
chance.
back and healthy?
Agudelo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they don't have Agudelo, if he hasn't recovered at all since his injury, then it's Cooper and whoever, at this point.
Insert another midfielder. They're going to switch to 4-5-1 at that point.
It could be. And
they definitely have. I think they have some rookie or second year options at striker. But I mean, would you rather do that, or would you rather play more of a 4-5-1 and throw another midfielder in there that has more experience? So,
well,
I definitely see that being more of an option if Agudelo isn't back and healthy.
Well, I'll tell you what. They go to a 4-5-1, and then now you're really asking Cooper to play with a big pair and do something he's not necessarily that excited about traditionally, because your other forward options outside of Henry at this point, now that Agudelo is down, you have Corey Herzog. I mean, you have another guy who's from Colombia. Was it Jarny Artiga? I don't know. We just don't know enough about that guy. And
here's another option. I mean, Corey Herzog obviously was a college sensation. He's a player that I would have liked to have seen got a little more of a shot, but he's on the wrong team in my opinion. However, I think what might happen is they could stick to a 4-4-2 and throw Dane Richards up top.
Well, they have done that before.
They've done it before. Yeah, exactly. And they throw somebody else on the wing.
Yeah, they could, because at least they have other options at midfield. They're kind of stacked there. And this Colombian kid who played for FC New York last season, he did score 13 goals for FC New York. But, I mean,
there's an FC New York?
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't know there's an FC New York? They play in the NPSL, Brett. Where have you been? But he's 25. If you're 25 and you're still playing with FC New York, I guess the question is, maybe you're really not that good. You're just kind of you're filling in the roster in case something horrible happens. But yeah, Corey Herzog. I mean, that's an option. But I like your option better. Starting Dane Richards up there.
It's a more
Kenny
likely
Cooper.
option if Agudelo isn't healthy.
Right. I would have to say so. And plus, you have midfielders. You can throw Belushi in there if you need to. Tainio can play midfield. You've got Lempier, as we've already mentioned. I think you're fine and Paulson can play midfield as well. I think you're fine at midfield. And I think
also, when we're talking about New York's designated players here, Solar made a comment. Marquez will not be going anywewhere.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
That's the same comment that I believe he's made about Tim Ream, and he's made about several players. Solar doesn't have quite the reputation of being the most accurate person to listen to when it comes to player movement.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He'll say one thing and all of a sudden the next thing happens.
Right.
So just because he says that Marquez is not going anywhere doesn't mean that he won't be, but I doubt he will be.
But to come to Solar's defense a bit, the situations are a bit different. I don't think Marquez, from what I hear, is in any way interested in necessarily going back to Mexico, where, of course, there are other offers. And I think he'd like to stay in the United States. I think the quality of living's a lot better, and and the difference between Marquez and Ream is Ream needed to make that move to stay in the international picture, whereas I think Marquez is kind of coming to the end of his career. If he makes the next cycle, he'll be fine. If he doesn't, I think
Marquez is making great money in a great city, so
yeah.
It would take a lot to pull him away from New York. So
yeah, absolutely.